Hello everyone. It's fairly obvious what this video is. It's everything I saw last month, i.e. September, so let's get into it. First movie I saw was a Paul Thomas Anderson joint called Licorice Pizza. This is the latest movie from one of the best contemporary directors currently working today, and while this is not his best, it's still definitely a movie worth watching. It takes place in the 70s, and since PTA grew up in the 70s, the entire movie does have a very rosy outlook when it comes to its depiction of that era. Not to say that PTA only has good things to say about the 70s, as this movie tackles a lot of interesting issues such as the exploitation of child actors, as well as just how seedy show business in LA was during that time. The actors all do a fantastic job, and the script is frenetic and packed with energy as the movie jumps from one plot point to the next. One weird thing I want to mention is that I was reading about how pinball machines used to be illegal in the US until the 70s before I saw this movie. And then I saw the movie and it had a subplot where the protagonist takes advantage of the legalization of pinball machines to open up a business. So that was kind of a weird coincidence. Anyways, I really enjoyed this one, and if this seems like something you'd like, go check it out. Next I saw Filth starring James McAvoy. Filth is based on the novel of the same name by Irvin Walsh, who also wrote the book that Trainspotting was based on, so my hopes going into this movie were pretty high. When you watch a movie called Filth, you expect some degeneracy and a little bit of trashiness. This movie delivers wholeheartedly on that front, with many characters, including our protagonist, partaking in some pretty heinous shit. It also does this whole I love Scotland bit at the start of the movie, which seemed like a direct jab at the Trainspotting scene where Renton goes,
"It's shite being Scottish!"
This movie worked for me for the most part, but where it really fell flat was the music. Not the rowdy fun music that's playing when our protagonist is doing some absolutely heinous shit. No, that's completely fine, that worked very well. The problem I have is the music that's played during some of the more emotional scenes of the movie. The music is super generic and feels very ham-fisted to make sure to tell you that you're supposed to be sad at this part. James McAvoy carries the film throughout its runtime with some great acting, and I feel like during those emotional scenes, if there was no music at all and he was just given complete control of the scene, he would have carried it a lot better. But sadly, the music is so bad and used so poorly that the entire emotional arc that our character goes through completely falls flat on its face. At least it did for me. Regardless though, this was a fairly fun watch. James McAvoy is great in it, so if this seems like something you'd enjoy, go check it out. Next I saw The Northman, which is the third feature film from Robert Eggers. Last film he directed was The Lighthouse, which was my favorite film from that year, so naturally I was very excited for this one as well. The Lighthouse remains my favorite film from Eggers after seeing this, but I have to say, The Northman is an amazing achievement in filmmaking. It tells its tale exactly in a way that someone from that era would tell it, meaning that the film is devoid of any sort of judgment or moralization. It depicts a world of rituals, kings, kingdoms, bloodlines, Valkyries and Valhalla, and it does so in spectacular fashion. The movie is extremely well shot and also supremely acted. Some of the more abstract scenes that are littered throughout the movie are utterly mesmerizing, and the movie has a hypnotic and haunting effect that sucks you in throughout its runtime. While the plot itself is not something that'll knock your socks off, it's a classic mythic tale that's told in an extremely refreshing and authentic manner. The highest level of authenticity is really what I've come to expect from this man, and I definitely think he's the best voice when it comes to making period pieces that's working currently in the industry today. Unfortunately, this movie did not do very well in the box office because people thought it would just be another generic historical flick, which is really sad to see because this movie is anything but that. But yeah, I really like this movie and I'll probably see it again soon. If this looks like something you'd enjoy, go give it a shot. Next I saw Why Don't You Play in Hell for the third time. Watching this movie a third time really made me appreciate what Sion Sono was trying to say about commitment to an art form that you really love. For my full thoughts on that, you can check out the YouTube video I made on it. But yeah, apart from that, this is just a comfort movie for me at this point because I enjoy it so much. It's a love letter to filmmakers and it's just so goofy and doesn't care, and you can tell everyone's having a great time. It features the most silly plot you could ever ask from a quote-unquote Yakuza movie, and the acting is also so beautiful to see. The overall tone of the movie is very, dare I say, anime-like, but in a very good way. It's very absurd and embraces its absurdness and is just a very enjoyable time. So if you're liking the stuff you're seeing on screen right now, go check it out. Next I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one. I had high hopes for this movie since it's considered to be a classic, but honestly it did not live up to the hype. For one thing, the characters all have this issue that most characters in horror movies have, where they make the absolute dumbest decisions possible so that the monster can show up. Furthermore, the movie's second act drags a fair bit as they're trying to figure out how to defeat Freddy Krueger. While it wasn't as great as I thought it would be, there were still some fairly enjoyable sequences peppered throughout. The death scenes are pretty creative and unique, and the visuals during those scenes are quite fun to see as well. The whole core concept of when you die in your dreams, you die in real life is pretty stale at this point, but it was a super unique concept when the movie came out. And the movie also does some very creative things with the concept itself, where you actually finally think, okay, maybe these characters aren't so dumb after all. So yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would, but it was still a pretty fun time. Next I saw Trainspotting for the billionth time. There's really nothing I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said, so let me just say it's an inspiration to me in how dynamic it is, how creative it is with its visuals, the way it tells the story, and how it helps you get into the headspace of a heroin junkie. The acting is of course top notch, and the movie has endlessly quotable lines throughout it as well. If you have not seen Trainspotting, what the fuck are you doing watching this video? Go watch Trainspotting right now. And lastly, I saw my first Bresson movie, A Man Escaped. I was going to start my journey into Bresson's filmography with Diary of a Country Priest, but then I saw a Criterion Closet video where the Safdie brothers were just raving about A Man Escaped, so I decided to go with that instead. The thing I love about this movie is how simplistic and reserved it is with what it chooses to show and what not to show. It's a movie about a prisoner of war during World War II who's attempting to escape a Nazi prison camp. A major part of the movie takes place in one small jail cell, and yet it's one of the most engaging movies I've seen in a while. It's very gripping, but also I loved how natural and organic it was when it comes to showing what our protagonist is struggling with and what his thought process is. It's based on a true story, and Bresson even states at the start of the movie that he didn't embellish anything and everything is told as is. It's remarkable to see how naturalistic and organic all of the planning of our protagonist is as well. Our hero often doubts his own plans, oftentimes when he's in the middle of executing them. It speaks to the uncertainty of how we think as human beings, but also somehow manage to carry on in the face of oppression and adversity. So if this seems interesting to you, go check it out.